working on the policy level at the San Francisco Department of the Environment, to transforming the homes of dozens of families throughout the Bay Area, to reaching thousands of people through workshops and media appearances, Friday is, of course, a foremost expert on sustainability. Her clients rave how she is the perfect guide to a more sustainable home because, one, she makes it easy, and two, she doesn't judge. Friday, I could really use your services because I need you.
Well, that's why I'm here. That is why I'm here.
Perfect.
I really believe that we all have our role to play in this. And I just want to start this conversation by saying every single time people ask me, but does it really matter if I do this thing, right? Does my one little contribution actually make a difference? And I can tell you, because of my experience, not only in the private sector, but also working for our city government, that your actions really do matter. And it is true that policy is the largest, kind of most sweeping action, but policymakers are not leaders, they're followers. They look to see what are constituents doing, and they ask businesses, hey, what would you think if we passed this kind of policy or that kind of policy? And if businesses say, oh, well, our customers are totally open to this idea, or they've been doing this, or this is how we see things going, then they're much more open to those kinds of things. And so we need everybody to do what they can do. And tonight I want to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Do not feel bad if you can't do all of these things, but start with something, right? And once you get started and you have some success, you'll be so excited to do the next thing. Don't stress on doing the hardest thing. If it feels hard to you, do the easy thing first. That's okay. There's no judgment here. We just want to get everybody on this train. Just come get on the train with us. That is what we're looking for.
Perfect, because it does take all of us. So thank you for prefacing with that. I just want to give everyone a quick overview of what to expect tonight in this Zoom call. Really, I'm just going to open up with a few questions that I'd love to ask you, Friday. And then from there, we're going to open up the chat for questions at the end, where we invite all of our residents to ask questions to Friday directly. So,
fantastic.
And Friday, thanks again for being here. Without further ado, I want to get started because we're all so excited.
Yeah.
So for this first question, I'm very curious, and I'm sure others are too. You've labeled yourself a sustainability concierge. Can you tell us a little more about what that means and where that story began?
Absolutely. Well, I started my career in advertising, and after, at some point, really felt the call to work on something that I cared more about, more deeply, and landed myself at the San Francisco Department of the Environment. And that was a place that was full of, still is, brilliant scientists, brilliant policymakers. And at the time I got there, almost no communication folks. And so they really didn't trust me at all. They were very certain that I was going to say something incorrectly to make it easy, that I was going to misrepresent what they were trying to say. And so I went on a journey with all of the people in that department. I went to the compost facility. I went to the green building seminars, and I did the blower door tests, and I saw the solar panels, and I really dug in. And I showed up every day with my reusable mug, and I turned off my computer screen when I left at night. And I really did it all so that they could trust me. Sure. And what that left me with was this incredible knowledge and a whole host of people texting me all the time. Friday, I totally get it that we have a problem. Can you just tell me what mattress you use? Where did you buy your shampoo? Is this pictures all the time? Is this compost? Is this recyclable? Is this compost? Like, all these people are saying to me, essentially, yeah, I get it. There's a problem. Please make the solution easier for me. Please make the solution easier for me. And I really found that you can even tell people, like I'm going to tell you, you can tell people a lot and they understand what you mean, but until you're in their home and you show them It can be a little bit hard. So that's why I'm standing in my kitchen. That is also why I left my job at the Department of the Environment. I use the word concierge on purpose because I want people to feel like I am taking care of this for them. I come to your house, I look at everything inside, everything from your HVAC system all the way down to your dental floss, all of it.
Wow.
And then I tell you, here's all the bajillion things that you could change, but you're not going to change them all. Let's pick 5, right? Or let's start with the things you're interested in. And you get to keep this whole report so you can come back to it when you're ready for the next thing, and you're ready for the next thing, and you're ready for the next thing. But this is what it looks like for you in your home, which is not the same as someone else in someone else's home. It's not the same by zip code. It's not the same all around. So that is what my service is. That is how I got there, because really I just wanted to watch people make change.
Friday, we all need someone like you in our lives. I'm going to be emailing you after this to schedule a consultation. So expect that email, please. I want to move over to the second question here. So it can be kind of confusing to know what goes in which garbage bin, as your friends, I'm sure, were texting you about.
All the time.
What's one of the best things we can do when it comes to garbage and reuse?
Yeah. So trash is something that people think about, what, 10 times a day, you think? You have to make a decision about what goes in what bin. It's really front and center. And I will say, because of that, it's not the easiest thing to address, right? For a lot of people, it feels it feels really overwhelming, and like it's constant, and it's not the place they want to start. If you're one of those people, hang tight. There's more to talk about, but I've got some tips and tricks for you. Here in the Bay Area, almost every single jurisdiction has curbside compost. That is one of the all-time best things that you can do, is participate in the compost system. Because what happens when you put things that break down into the landfill, they don't really break down. They start this complicated process that's full of $10,000 words. And essentially what happens is the food becomes methane. Methane, if you've heard, is a greenhouse gas. It's a warming gas. It's actually something like 25 to 30 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So we talk about carbon all the time, and we got to get carbon out of the atmosphere. Well, methane lives for a shorter amount of time, but is much more potent. So we definitely want to cut down on methane. So one good way of doing that is getting stuff that's in the landfill that's breaking down out of the landfill. Then, because compost is so amazing, and you guys, I'm such a nerd about compost. It's so amazing. When you put compost on the land, on the farm, on the field, wherever you want to put it, it literally sucks carbon out of the atmosphere and puts it in the ground. And the roots of the plants eat it all up. They're so happy. So it does 2 things, right? It eliminates one emission source, and it reduces the carbon that's already in the atmosphere. Amazing. And the last thing is, it makes the soil really healthy, and healthy soil holds a lot more water.
Absolutely.
So when you use compost on your crops, you don't have to water them as much. And in a state like California, that matters a lot.
A lot.
And so, yes, if you want to compost in your backyard, or you want to do worm composting in your apartment, I say totally go for it. That's great for your plants. But most home composts don't take things like eggshells and chicken bones and paper towels and pizza boxes. But your curbside compost does take all of those things. And here's a quick trick. If it was ever alive, it can go in the compost.
Okay.
If it's ever alive, it can go in the compost. So that counts things like the cork in your wine, right? Cork grows on trees. Cork was alive. if it's
Right.
bones, if it's paper made out of trees,
Right.
right? All kinds of things like that. If it was ever alive, it goes in the compost. You know what's not alive?
What?
Glass, metal, plastic. Those things don't go in the compost. I mean, plastic technically is made out of dinosaur bones, and so you could get real technical on that, but we're going to go with not alive.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you know what? That's great to know, because I'm thankful at my building at 3809 20th Street, we have a courtyard in the center. So I'm definitely going to be talking with my residents about ways we can center compost in our gardening and everything moving forward. So thank you. That's really great. And I just want to let our residents know too, we will have a quick raffle session at the end. So please make sure you're paying attention. We have some prizes to give away. All right, I want to.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I want to move on to the third question here. I see you're in your lovely kitchen, and previously during our initial call, we talked about your zero waste sink setup. Can you walk us through this?
Yeah. Yes, totally we can. Also, I feel like we could talk about recycling, composting more too, if you want to, but we'll get into that with questions and answers. Okay, I'm gonna tilt my camera here a little bit so you can see my sink maybe a little bit more.
Perfect.
How's that? Okay, so
Great.
This is my compost pail. And this is my zero waste sink setup. Okay, what I have 3 things here that are really important. First of all, this is my soap. Okay, it's a bar soap. I mean, I really use it, you can tell. This really is my sink. So a couple things. One is, if you want soapy water in a dish, you know, like you're gonna do some dishes, you just run the water over the top of it and you get soapy water. You don't need liquid soap in a plastic bottle. You can just use a bar soap. When I am scrubbing my dishes, I just rub like this, right? Then I got some soap, scrub my dish, okay?
Great.
And this is made out of some kind of hair, forgive me because I forget what it is, and wood. So this goes in the compost.
Nice.
Then I have for scrubbing, right? And rather than a sponge, those blue sponges and those green sponges, I'm so sorry to say, are made out of plastic. This is a sponge made out of wool. This is what it looks like when you first get it, but because it's wool, right? You put it in hot water,
It shrinks.
but it's got just the right amount of scrubbiness because it's wool. And also it is naturally antimicrobial. So I swear to you, it does not smell. And I use this a lot every day. And I have also the most sensitive nose on the whole planet, truly. It doesn't stink. So this is for scrubbing. And then when I have like a spill of some kind or something I want to wipe down, rather than use a paper towel, which everybody likes, I use this Swedish dishcloth. And you can kind of see it's like firm. It's made out of cotton and cellulose. Again, totally compostable. Did I say that about the wool, by the way? 100% wool. When you're done with it, you put it in the compost.
Amazing. Okay.
Be alive. So this, and I'll just show you, when it gets wet, it gets really, really, you know, floppy, like a, right? And I just use it to wipe up whatever. And especially if you have a spill, it's like super absorbent. And so this lasts me, I would say, about a month or so, and then it goes in the compost. So between these 3 things, there's no waste at all here. There's nothing is going in the landfill. Nothing is even really being recycled. It's just being composted. Perfect. And then, so this is how compost and recycle and reducing waste, right? It all kind of goes together. I also use, let me get this window out of the way so you're not blowing out the light here. These unpaper towels. These are my favorite. Okay.
Oh, I love it.
Looks like a paper towel roll. Unrolls.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Looks like paper towels, but they're cloth. Okay. And these are great for rubbing your eyes, blowing your nose, wiping your mouth, serving your toast, like all the same things, wiping your countertop, all the same things that you would use a paper towel for, you can use these. The trick with them, so if you go buy them, they're from Marley's Monsters and they're called Unpaper Towel.
Marley's Monsters. Great.
Yeah. And I mean, I love them, and I'm a duck. They're based in Eugene, Oregon. Go Ducks. But so here's the trick. If you have like a whole bunch of old t-shirts in your house that you've been dying to get rid of, which I think everybody falls in that category.
Oh, totally.
Right. What makes these great is that they're uniform in size. So just cut your t-shirts up if you're like a super, DIYer, but cut them in the same shape. And then you don't need this fancy wood one. You can use the same paper towel holder that you have. Just use the cardboard of it and roll them up. And they just roll. Let me show you. See over here. Okay. I just lay them flat, one on top of the other. And then I just roll them up. Nice. Roll one like this. Roll the next one. Ta-da. These are flannel, so they kind of stick together, but your t-shirts will do the same thing. And
they look so nice. I love them. I'm going to order some now.
Well, I will tell you, they look nice because they're dark colors. Don't get white ones. If you use them correctly, they're going to get stained. Right? And that's the other thing. You got to do laundry, but we're all doing laundry. They don't take up a ton of space. The trick though is you want to have a hamper of some kind where you're using these. So it doesn't have to be anything big. It can be small. I have clients who have them underneath their sink. I use this drawer here that some people have in their kitchens that has like, they use it for landfill and recycle. This is my laundry bin. It has all of the towels and the reusable things in my kitchen because my landfill bin is tiny.
Sure.
But my hamper is big because I use these all the time.
I literally have to buy some. I love those. And we actually have the link. It was shared in the chat. So if anyone's interested in looking at them, please check them out.
Yeah.
And I want to be mindful of our time here. So I want to move on to the next question so we have enough time for our residents. And you had touched upon this earlier, and I really want to key in on it because I think it's really important, especially for us in California. Do you have any other tips for how we can be more responsible in our water usage and reduce water waste at home?
Yeah. I'm so thankful for the rain right now, right? We can all be thankful for the rain right now.
Always.
But the truth is the snowpack is the thing that gets us through drought, and we have none. There is zero snowpack right now, which is a pretty scary place to be if you're in California. So people who have grown up in California know that drought is part of the lifestyle here, but they're getting more severe and they're getting longer, and we really have to tamp down on what that means. So I know you guys work in your apartment buildings to make sure that you have aerators and low flow shower heads.
Yeah.
And I will just say to any resident who's listening, if you don't have a low flow aerator on your faucet or a low flow shower head, get one. The PUC will give them to you for free. I bet you Green Tree would give them to you for free too. But I will just say, every time I hear this stigma, low flow shower head. Two things about that. One, my husband, whose hair is almost as long as mine, sometimes longer than mine, was so anti. He was like, I don't know, Friday, I don't know if I can deal with this low flow shower head. And I was like, just try it. So I went and I bought the $5 version at the hardware store, the standard 5 and dime.
Oh, perfect.
And he was like, oh, this is great, because the physics of this is such that the holes become smaller. So you've got the same amount of water going through a smaller hole, higher pressure, right? So less water, yes, more pressure.
More pressure. Wow.
Which a lot of people like. And I recently went back east to DC where they don't care about wasting water. And they were like, look at us with our low flow shower head. That is twice as much water as mine. And it was terrible. I'm like, ugh, I feel like someone has got a garden hose or something on me. And my husband too, he's like, what is wrong with this? I'm like, I need it to get in there, like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So low flow shower head really is great. And also if you're somebody who doesn't love to take short showers, don't love to take short showers.
Absolutely.
I just take less of them.
Hmm.
And I will say the pandemic has helped me with that, right? Like some days when I'm like, oh, I don't have to be on Zoom today. I don't really have to do anything public facing. Just not going to take a shower.
Not today.
Okay. It's totally okay. But then when I take a 5-minute shower, I'm like, oh, I don't feel bad.
Totally.
Because I took less.
And you know what? Sue has a great tip from the chat. She said, step in and get damp, including hair when washing, then turn off the water, lather up, then turn back on to rinse. It can be a chilly shower, but it saves water. Thanks, Sue.
It totally saves water. The other thing is if you have like a beautiful bucket or not beautiful, any kind of bucket, but when you wait for the water to heat up, put a bucket under the shower and collect that water. You can use it to rinse your dishes. You can use it to water your plants. You can use it to flush your toilet. There's all kinds of things that you can use water for, reuse water for in your apartment. And all of the water that comes out of our faucets in San Francisco, in any municipality really, is all drinking water. It's all designed to be drinking water. So we go to the bathroom with drinking water. We shower in drinking water. We water our plants in drinking water, all of it. And when it goes down the wastewater system, it has to get treated on the other end. So if you're putting totally clean, amazing Hetch Hetchy water down the drain, it's using electricity and energy to process that already clean water and put it out into the bay.
Got it.
So really think about like, how can you catch what you have and reuse it?
Perfect.
If you're halfway done with a glass of water and you don't want to drink it anymore, don't put it down the sink, put it in the plant.
Absolutely. Thank you. Being more mindful about our water conservation. And I do see more questions coming in through the chat. I'm going to hold on them until the end, just so we can ask them at once.
Okay.
And I want to move on to the next question here too.
Hold on, can I say one more thing about water?
Absolutely. Let's talk water.
So one other thing about water, because we live in the city, right? And, or we're all in some kind of urban area. Agriculture is the biggest user of water, right? Relative even to city dwellers. Not a lot of us have big giant lawns or things like that that are considered water hogs. So sometimes it feels like our choices are a little bit small. But one thing you can do is be careful about what you eat. Now, I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian. I am not here to talk to you about nutrition, but what I can tell you is that when you eat smaller animals, you use a lot less water. Cows are water hogs, big time water hogs. So you don't have to not eat any cows, but maybe eat a little bit less of them. Or instead of a cow, eat a chicken. Or instead of a chicken, eat what's smaller than a chicken, like a little hen, like a quail. But as you go smaller, they use a little bit less. Or do vegetarian Monday night or whatever it is. But the more you can kind of move in that direction and treat meat as a special thing, that also will help with water. Amazingly.
Perfect.
They're connected.
Great. Thank you so much. So for the next question, slightly related, energy is another big topic. What are some simple but impactful things we can do right away when it comes to saving energy? Yeah.
Okay, so I know that Green Tree tries really hard to put LED light bulbs in all of your apartments. If you do not have LED light bulbs, that is the best first thing to do, because that lowers, one LED light bulb uses 85% less electricity than one incandescent light bulb.
85%.
85% less.
Wow.
It's a
Okay.
huge difference, and you will notice it on your bill. Now, lots of people have a hard time picking out a light bulb. I get it. It's confusing. Send me an email and I will help you pick out the most beautiful light bulb for your space.
I'm
There
writing
are,
this down.
the good news is there are a plethora of choices. The bad news is there's a plethora of choices and it's easy to make the wrong one, but we can definitely find you the right one. So that would be the first thing. Definitely change your lights. And then the next thing is like get savvy about what is on in your apartment, in your space. So turning off the lights, right? That's really good. And I used to be kind of analog about this. And I have since like seen the light. And I have to just show you, there's a company in California called Ohm Connect.
Ohm Connect.
OHM, Ohm Connect. And what they do is they work with the large utility providers and the grid, and they activate different people to say, hey, turn off your power for this 1 hour. And if a whole bunch of people do that, we can avoid rolling blackouts, we can stabilize the grid, and the grid can use more green energy. So part of Ohm Connect is that they have these smart plugs. They look just like this. They have a little power on the side, right? So you plug this in, and then you plug whatever your thing is into here. And then you get this app on your phone or on your computer, and you can schedule it. So like the lights in my living room, they go on at 7:30 at night when it gets dark, and they turn off at 10:30 at night. And I just don't have to think about it. Now I can turn them on and off whenever I want to. A better example maybe is my son, he plays the Wii.
Sure. Same.
Notorious energy hogs are gaming consoles and DVD players and all that electronic stuff that you have plugged in. All those things, they suck energy even when they're not turned on.
Okay.
Even when they're not turned on. So you can, so what I did, because he's only allowed to play the Wii on the weekend, starting at 10:30 in the morning. So I just plugged his little Wii right into this. And I set the schedule. Cannot turn on during the week, only turns on at 10:30 in the morning on Saturday, turns off at 5 o'clock at night on Saturday, 10:30 in the morning on Sunday, 5 o'clock at night on Sunday. And now I don't have to nag him. I don't have to say, do you remember to turn it off? Did you turn the thing on? I didn't have to, forget it.
Like, you know for certain that it is off at this time. I'm sure he loves you for that.
Yeah, and it's great because then none of us are arguing about this. We've made ourselves very efficient and done it in a great way. Another thing that you can do as a renter in an apartment for energy, maybe the best thing you can do aside from composting, is sign up for 100% renewable energy. In San Francisco, it's called Clean Power SF, but every single jurisdiction in the Bay Area has a community choice aggregation program. And you go to the website, you put in your PG&E number and press agree, and that's literally it. You're done. And it takes you from a mix of power that is 30% renewable to 100% renewable power.
Fantastic.
It demands that the nonprofit organization, in the case of San Francisco, it's the San Francisco PUC, it's a government agency. It demands that they buy enough renewable energy for your usage, right? So it helps grow renewable facilities and it helps you feel better too. So that's like a big one. And it is in every single Bay Area jurisdiction. So you don't, I think it's East Bay Power because there's somebody from Oakland. And I mean, they're everywhere. Marin Clean Power, Silicon Valley Clean Power, you'll find it.
Great. Thank you, Friday. That's really, really good to know. I need to sign up.
And did I say when you use Ohm Connect, they pay you?
It's a win for everyone then.
It's totally a win. It's not like a ton of money, but like it's enough.
Still, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good to know. Thank you. So the last question I have prepared here before we open it up to the Q&A As San Franciscans and Oakland residents, is it true that turning toward public transportation and walking are two of the most sustainable things we can do?
I mean, okay, the most sustainable thing,
Yeah,
that's not a question we can really answer, right? Like it all
totally.
depends on where you live and what you do and what is the most sustainable thing. Okay.
Yeah,
But here we are living in this city, and here in California. I know the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in San Francisco is transportation. The
sure.
largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the state of California is transportation. So yeah, absolutely. If you get out of your car and you walk and bike, it doesn't have to be for every trip. I own a car. It's okay to own a car. It's okay to use a car. But if you can, sorry, the neighbor kid is knocking on my door right now, and I just
Oh no. Oh no, that's okay.
It's so cute, right?
Yeah.
Anyhow, so walking and biking and getting out of your car is really an important thing to do.
Sure.
And the way that we do that is a couple of things, right? We live more densely, right? If you live where you work, then it's really easy to make short trips. There is a grocery store a half a block from me. I never drive to the grocery store. I just walk to the grocery store. My son's school is 10 blocks away. We ride a bike there because it takes the same amount of time to ride as we do in a car.
Nice.
Right? And the bus is not always the answer for me, but sometimes it is. And when I was commuting downtown, it was great. And so, yes, walking and biking is super important. Living in a density is super important. Like, think about this. I don't know how many of you have been to Hong Kong. I went years and years ago. It is such a dense city, right? I'm not necessarily advocating that San Francisco look like Hong Kong, but what I can tell you is they have a whole lot of people living on a tiny little island. And if you drive all the way around it, what you find is that 70% of Hong Kong Island is lush trees and beautiful nature. And all of those people in the city get to enjoy all of that nature. But if they all had big old houses with lots of space, they wouldn't have that preserved space, right? And that can be a little controversial to talk about, but I just really feel that that is one thing that we can all do. We can share resources, right? Talking about reuse, if we buy secondhand, or maybe not every single person in your building needs to have a ladder, but there's one ladder in the building. It's easier to live more densely when you share things. It's easier to live more densely when you have really good infrastructure. So that's the other thing I will say, is that advocate, call your supervisor, call your city representatives, tell them that you really wish that you could ride a bike to work, but it's dangerous and you need some better infrastructure in order to make that happen. Or you really wish that you could take the bus home from your, restaurant shift, but it doesn't run late at night. And so I can't. Right. And so no one's saying that like you're a terrible person if you don't do it. But what I am saying is this is part of the solution, right? It's part of the solution for congestion. It's part of the solution for admissions. It's part of the solution for growing population. Big cities get labeled as the problem, but they are also the solution. They are also the solution. It's where we can make a big impact. So I choose to live in a city. I love that all of you are choosing to live in urban areas. I think it's great. Also because neighbor kids can come and knock on the door, right? I mean, like I like people and I like to be around people. So
me too. And it's like
I like the convenience of having things close.
Me too. And it's like you said earlier, it's a train that we all have to jump on if we want to make a meaningful change. And from there, it's a ripple effect. Totally. So really from there, those are my questions. I do want to open it up to the chat because I've already seen some fantastic questions come through. I want to go back a little bit. I saw a question, I think from Doria or Dorian, asking, can you put meat and cheese in the compost bin?
Yes. You can put meat and cheese in the compost bin. You can put, so I learned this when I was first at the Department of the Environment, that sometimes people think of food scraps like they think of it like it's just garbage, like it's not
Sure.
food.
Sure.
And so when you describe them as food scraps, people are like, well, yeah, but that's not food. It's like the bone. It's the unusable part. But all the unusable parts of your food can go into the compost. You can also use them to make broth. This is one of my super hacks. Like I have not bought veggie broth or chicken broth in years. Okay, here's the trick.
Yeah, tell me, please. I'm curious.
Like your ends and stems, right? So you got some carrots, keep the carrot peels, keep the onion rinds, keep the outside skin of the garlic, the middle part of the kale, like all that stuff, okay? All the leftover stuff, not old and moldy stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the scraps, the part you cut off and you don't eat. Keep it in the freezer. And then when you get a big enough amount, put it in a pot and fill the pot with water just above the scraps. Okay. You bring it to a boil and then you, just for a minute, and then you put it way, way down and let it simmer like low, like low for hours. Okay. 6 hours. Then you can take all those food scraps, which now go in the compost and they're smaller. But they go in the compost and you just strain it, like use like a cheesecloth or some kind of strainer, and you can pour the broth into a glass mason jar. I can't believe we've gotten this far into the conversation. I've not talked about mason jars yet.
Oh my gosh.
This is my tomato soup. But this type of mason jar is great because it's straight up and down and you can freeze it without the jar breaking. Now, if you use a jar that has a shoulder like this, it will break. Trust me, I've done this enough times. Even if you put it down here, don't do that. Just don't do it. It will break. Okay. And that's frustrating because you've made all this work and you've done all this stuff, and then you have stuff you can't use because there's broken glass in it. But that's what I love to use. And you can use like a Parmesan cheese rind, like a hard cheese. If you have a little rind, stick that in with the broth when it's boiling. It makes it a little umami. It's very good. Ooh, it's very good. But yeah, this is the trick. And also, since I have a mason jar in my hand, let me say, oh, the wondrous, fabulous mason jar. It comes in all shapes and sizes, super inexpensive, available at every local hardware store you can imagine. Holds half of an avocado perfectly, holds all your leftovers just fine. Freeze it, heat it up, put it in the microwave. It's the perfect Ziploc bag replacement. Perfect. Ditch your Ziploc bags. This is airtight. Put your stuff in it. And what's great about this is you can see it. When you see your food, you don't waste your food. Absolutely. This is such a big deal. If you live alone and you have one of these giant refrigerators that all of us Americans have, fill the back of your refrigerator with empty or with water jugs. Yeah. You don't have to buy them new, just whatever jugs, doesn't matter. But water will do two things. One, it will make your refrigerator much more energy efficient because every time you open up your refrigerator, all the cold air falls out. And when you close it, if your refrigerator's empty, there's a whole bunch more air that it needs to make cold again. Yeah. So if you have more things in your refrigerator, there's less air to make cold, right? And those things have mass. Mass holds temperature. We're back into high school physics class here. But also it cuts off the back of your refrigerator. So there's no more lost leftovers getting moldy in the back there. And then you look at it 3 weeks later and go, ugh, what is that? Right? Throw that in the compost. Right. Disgusting. Oh, I love these everyday tips. I'm like taking notes here to have a more sustainable apartment. This is great. Yeah. I want to move on to this next question here too, from Stephanie. She's asking about baths. So I think connected to our conversation about water, do baths use too much water? And maybe this is just
being more mindful about how often we're taking baths. Not every day, but maybe once a week. What would you suggest?
I mean, I'm not sure I want you to take a bath every day. It depends on how big your bathtub is. If you have a humongous bathtub, like then definitely not.
Right.
If you have a little bathtub and you take up most of the volume in your bathtub, you
Mhm.
might be using less. It kind of depends. I mean, if it feels excessive to you, then don't do it. But here's the thing. If that's the thing that brings you the most mental clarity and the best life,
Mhm.
then work harder somewhere else. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
Like, I'm not here to say you can't have the thing you love. I'm here to say, find a way to have a positive impact when you're
Mhm.
talking about this. So
Mhm.
maybe, and I will tell you this trick I learned on accident. So the last big drought, I had a baby and I had to wash baby bottles all the time.
Sure.
um, and I was so upset about how much water it was using. So I was catching all the water and had just a little bit of Dr. Bronner's soap in it.
Okay.
And I was putting it on my plants outside, and all the little bugs eating my plants went away. And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
what's up with that? So I went to the nursery because I'm not like a particular plant person. And they were like, oh, yeah, if you put
Yeah.
a little bit of soap in the water, kills the bugs. And I was
No
like,
kidding.
this is genius. So I got to catch the water from washing my dishes and
Yeah,
then put it in my plants. And it was like a twofer. So if you're taking a
that's
bath
awesome.
and you're not using like super smelly, super bubbly stuff in the bath, then maybe you can reuse some of that water. That would be something I would say. Maybe make you feel a little bit better about taking a bath.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. For the next question, this one's super interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts. Carme asks, how can we dispose of makeup without contaminating?
Makeup. There's really
No,
no good answer.
no, I'm joking.
There's really no good answer. There are a handful of makeup companies who are making like refillable and like refillable type packaging.
Yeah.
And you'll have to forgive me because I am not great at, like, I have lipstick on, but this is like just because I'm on Zoom and I want you to see my lips. That's it.
Right.
I'm kind of a makeup dodo, but here's what I can tell you. Couple of things. If you have a bunch of makeup that you don't want anymore, first things first, find out if somebody else wants it.
Hmm.
Like, I had a client who I said, you know what, let's call a women's shelter. She had a bunch of stuff that she hadn't used before, people had given her or whatever. I said, why don't we find a shelter for, women escaping domestic violence or whatever, and why don't we see if they want it? They were thrilled. Yeah, a big giant bag of toiletries. Heck yeah, I'll take that. Right. So they were really happy. So first things first, and maybe on Buy Nothing, or maybe you have some girlfriends or boyfriends or whoever who want to use it. Like,
Yeah.
see if somebody else wants it first. Then try and use it up. If you can't use it up and you don't like it, doesn't match your skin, whatever, like, you can send it off to TerraCycle, TERRA. They recycle all kinds of things that are really hard to recycle. They're based in New Jersey and
Great.
they're generally good, but also mailing our trash across the country is like not the best way of getting rid of it.
Hmm.
Makeup is small generally.
Yeah.
So really what I would say is probably you just have to put it in a landfill, and it pings a little bit to feel bad. And you're like, ugh, I don't want to put it in the landfill, but hold on to that feeling and remember it the next time you, on a whim, try, buy something that you're not sure if you really want.
Yeah.
Use that feeling to be like, what am I going to do at the end of this life? Do I really want this? Is it really going to work for me? Can I buy it in a tester first and, try it out
Yeah.
and then see? But yeah, makeup is a tough one. I will say, I'll refer to Feel Good a million times in this, but there's a friend of mine, also her name is Stephanie, has a company called Feel Good, FILLGOOD. And she sells all things plastic free. She calls herself like the modern milkman for home cleaning products. So she'll literally bring you stuff in bulk, like and exchange jars. So she'll bring it to you in a jar and then you give her the empty jar back. But she also sells makeup and all kinds of, like, she sells all the products that I've talked about. And she's local in the Bay Area and she delivers to your house. She's great.
Fantastic.
And she has a pickup program too, like all around the Bay Area. So definitely check out Feel Good. I know they have some makeup that is non-toxic and also plastic free. So check them out.
Great. All right. Feel Good, everyone. I'm checking them out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here's a great question from Alfonso. And you know what? I actually wonder this too. I think many people do. Obviously, I think many of us care about composting and we want to be better. But how do you control the odor from compost? Sometimes it leaves a really rancid smell, as I'm sure you know.
Yes. Okay, so everyone's compost situation is different. I'm going to preface it with that. But here's the thing that kills me about people worried about the smell of compost. The smell is the same as your trash. Like if you're putting it in the trash, it also stinks. My compost doesn't smell, but I have one that has, well, actually, this is hilarious. I'm going to show you. It has a place for one of those carbon filters. It's like a black kind of wool. I don't think I have one. Nope. But they come like this one too, has the space. This one actually has space for 2 of them. But if you put a carbon filter on the top, it really will kill the smell. But you know what happens then when you open it? Ooh, smell, right? I leave mine open like this. So it has a little bit of air coming to it and it doesn't smell. But also my compost bin is this big. It's not big. I cook every day. There's 3 of us in this house. And I take out the compost like every day, every 2 or 3 days. Like never do I go more than 3 days because I run out of space. It holds my coffee grounds. It holds my tea leaves. It holds the half-eaten sandwich from my kiddo from school. Like it has all that stuff in it. And so it fills up pretty fast and I take it out. So it doesn't really get gnarly. And sometimes if it gets gnarly, I'm like, ooh, somebody take this out. But it's such a rare thing. But I hear you. I have a very sensitive nose. So other thing that people do, which is not something that works for me, but it works for other people, you can put your compost in your freezer. And that will kill the smell. So if collecting your compost on the countertop is not working for you or under your sink is not working for you, then try and collect it in your freezer.
Got it.
And then once a week, whenever you take your trash out, then you just take the frozen stuff and put it in the green bin. No big deal. It won't smell.
Perfect. I love how convenient it is too, that you just have the jar there on your kitchen counter.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like this one because it's beautiful, but there's a million different versions. Pick one you like to look at. Like it doesn't, anything can be a compost bin. My husband just used to use a bowl. Which, like pull out another bowl when you're cooking and one bowl is for all the scraps.
Absolutely. It gets the job done.
It can be anything. It can be a paper bag. It can be your newspaper. If you get the newspaper delivered, put all your compost on the newspaper, fold it up, stick it in the compost bin.
There you go.
Yeah, it can be anything.
Anything. And Friday, here's another question that's connected to composting from Renee, asking, can you compost a paper towel that you used Windex on, or maybe some other type of cleaning agent?
I love this question so much because the first time I got it, it came in a different form. It was like, are those Doritos really compostable? Because I'm not sure they're made out of anything real. And I was like, oh man, that's such a good question. So I ran to the compost guy in my office and I was like, can you really compost this stuff? Here's the cool thing about municipal compost. It's so big that it gets so hot that it truly breaks down all of those chemicals. And there's some research even into trying to figure out if you can use compost to break down some of the most pervasive chemicals that we have in our environment, like PFAS chemicals. I mean, there's a whole toxics talk here, but yes, the answer to your question is Yes.
Yes.
Windex, although I don't want you to use Windex. That's a talk for another day. But
Okay,
if you're
stay
using
tuned.
Windex, you still can put it in your compost bin. You can also put boogers in your compost bin. You can put blood in your compost bin.
Okay.
You cannot put tampons or feminine products in your bin. You cannot put, I mean, I say blood, what I mean is like a bloody nose.
Sure.
But you can't put poop, no poop of any kind, no human poop, no cat poop, no dog poop, no poop in the compost bin. That's because it uses there's different pathogens in there. It's not designed for that.
Okay.
But that's really it. Like no tampons and no poop.
All right. Well, thank you. And I hope that answers your question, Renee. I'm going to read this question off here, or more of a comment. Becky was saying, we could do a lot of good at Green Tree if we encouraged our tenants to sort their trash before they dispose of it. Our black gray bins frequently have large plastic bags with recyclable materials in them. And then, of course, breaking up the cardboard boxes can also be really beneficial. And Becky, I would encourage you to speak with your resident manager if you have one. I know that various RMs are doing something called a trash audit, where they're actively looking at the compost bins, the recyclable bins, just to make sure that things are being put in the correct place. So I invite you to please reach out to them and see if there's anything that they can do or that you can all do as a community to be more responsible and mindful with where these objects and materials are going. But that's great. And I'm really glad you brought it up, Becky.
Yeah. And if you're in a smaller building, like maybe a 4-unit building or
Without a
2-unit
resident manager.
building,
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've worked closely with ecology. They will not pick up your trash if it's not sorted well.
Oh,
They'll
no,
just
they
say,
won't.
Try again.
Yeah, we'll come back
And
next
if you
time.
do it wrong a few times, they'll start finding you. It's not great.
No one wants that.
So one thing though that you said about a plastic bag that I really want to mention, and I think it's really important,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to recyclables. We haven't talked about recycling a lot, but recycling, if you can imagine those commercials at Christmas time with the Hershey Kisses, and they like go up the conveyor belt, and then there's like 12 conveyor belts, and then there's 100 conveyor belts, and they all go in every direction. That is what our our recycling facility looks like. And essentially in the very beginning, there's a handful of people at the very beginning of the line, and the conveyor belt is going quick. So if you put your recyclables in a plastic bag that's closed,
Yeah.
they just pull it off and throw it into the trash.
Wow.
Because they don't have time to break it up and dump it out. They don't have time for that. And so that doesn't work. So don't put your recyclables in a closed plastic bag. That is not helping the situation.
Not helping.
But do put your landfill in a closed plastic bag, because a lot of times we see litter kind of all over the streets. It's terrible. It is often little pieces that were in the landfill bin or in the street bin.
Yeah.
The wind picked them up. If you haven't seen your garbage be picked up and put into a truck, I highly recommend it. They dump it, right? They pick it up and it dumps, right? And in that time, if the wind blows, I've seen it happen a million times. Stuff goes everywhere. Stuff goes everywhere. So as much as you can contain your landfill, good job. Release your recycling. Let it be.
Perfect.
Also because recycling tends to be heavier and bigger stuff, not so much stuff that's going to fly all over the place.
Absolutely. And I have 2 more questions here I want to get to before we
I'm happy to go over on time. Just keep asking me. Well, just keep going.
And then we'll go toward the raffles session of this.
Yeah, we have to do raffle. You guys have good prizes.
Yes, exactly. Ed Whiteman had a question. What do we do with cooking grease? Is that compostable?
Yes. Okay. It depends. Like all things with sustainability, the answer is it depends.
Yeah.
Cooking grease, though, like if it's bacon, like let's say you made a bunch of bacon on Sunday morning. Okay.
Which I do all the time.
Mason jar.
There we go.
The grease into a jar, let it get hard, and then you can scoop it out and put it in the compost.
Great.
Do not put it down the drain. Whatever you do not put it down the drain. What happens? You can look this up. Actually, I think Mike Rowe, like a million jillion years ago, if you guys know Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, his first dirty job was at the San Francisco PUC, and he goes into the pipes and like these big ones that you can stand in, and they show these grease balls.
Oh,
It's crazy. I mean, it will make you never put grease down the drain ever again. Don't put grease down the drain. If you have a big amount, like let's say you deep fried a turkey on Thanksgiving, you can take that oil to like almost any grocery store. There's like a whole bunch of oil take back places, like Whole Foods I know does it. But there's grease recycling, and it turns into biodiesel. And literally down in the Bayview, you can go, if you have a diesel car, you can pump this biodiesel that comes from your turkey, deep fried turkey grease into your car and drive it around. No joke.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I had no idea about this. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, biodiesel is a thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff about it. It's not like a grand scale, but for you in your apartment, if you're using a ton, like if you're using just a little, like I would say anything more than like a jelly jar or less, compost, jelly jar or more, take it to the recycling.
Got it.
I'm not reading all of these comments, but I see them all coming in, and you guys, I'm so delighted about
They're
this
amazing.
happening.
Me too. I want to get to Lauren Zeiferman's question here. Lauren was talking back to the gaming console conversation, and I'm curious too, because I'm a gamer. I have my PS4, my Xbox One, you name it. Do you recommend keeping those consoles unplugged when you're not using them?
Yes. Okay. And I have a good analog version for this. Okay. There's a million different ways of doing this, but essentially just get 2 power strips.
Okay.
1 power strip, you're going to put your Wi-Fi, your router, maybe your cable box, although they're kind of hogs too.
Sure.
The things that you want on all the time, you put on 1. Your DVD player, your Xbox, your, I don't know what, all the other things. There's like a million things, right?
Yeah.
Your CD player that you listen to once every 6 months for the 1 CD that isn't on Spotify anymore, or whatever. I don't know. Okay. So those things, put on a separate power strip and just turn the power strip off. So when you're done using it, and then put it in a place where you can reach it, right? Like I put Velcro on mine and just put it on the side of my credenza. So when I came into the room, I could flip it on. When I left the room, I could flip it off, or use one of these plugs. And then you can do it on your phone, like pull your phone up, turn it on, play. When you're done, turn it off. You don't have to climb around and reach behind. And like, I hear you on, the logistics sometimes of that is really bad, but anything that has a red light is using electricity. And sometimes if you're careful, you can hear the hum of these things, but TVs, especially old ones, are big bad users. Same thing with cable boxes, all those gaming consoles, your printer, like if you have a coffee maker that has the time on it.
Oh, sure.
That's using electricity when you're not using it.
Got it.
And these things are called phantom loads, which all of the energy nerds like to talk about it at Halloween time, phantom loads. It's hilarious, but they make up, like in some cases, they can make up a whole month of usage. So like imagine you've got 12 months of energy, and then 1 extra month of that is just phantom loads in a typical household.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit less here because we're talking about apartments, but
it
can be a lot.
A lot. Oh my, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have a question from Caroline here, moving back to recycling. What types of plastic can be recycled, and where is the labeling for us to know?
Yeah. Okay. We're all in the Bay Area. You don't have to worry about the labels. Here's how you know. I'm looking for an example. Okay. If you have plastic that is hard,
sure.
I got an example.
Oh, let's see.
if you have plastic that is hard, like cottage cheese, it's hard. That can be recycled. Hard plastic can be recycled. Plastic that is soft, like this, I can crunch it in my hand. That cannot be recycled in your normal bin. You have to take an extra step. So you have to collect all of this separately and put it in a bag, a little bag.
Okay.
And that little bag can go in the blue bin. Or you can take it in San Francisco. That's true. I don't think that's true in all the jurisdictions.
Okay.
But what is true in all the jurisdictions is you can take it to like the hardware store or the grocery store. You'll see that they have these soft plastic recycling, like outside. Usually they say like, bring your grocery bags back or whatever. You can do it there. But the real truth is plastic is a terrible product for the environment. It does really well the thing it is designed to do, which is never ever to break down. So there are some cases where it's great to use plastic, but in your kitchen, 99% of the time, it is not a good use. So the best thing you can do is avoid buying it in the first place. So avoid using those Ziploc bags by using a mason jar. Avoid getting the plastic ketchup and instead buy the ketchup in the glass bottle that's right there on the shelf, costs the same, right? It didn't used to cost the same, but it does now. And you know, when you're looking at those kind of things, can you buy in bulk? This is actually a great example. I love English peas. And this time of year, I buy a crate of English peas, like pounds and pounds and pounds of them. And my mom and I shell these peas and we put them in the freezer. And then I'm not buying peas in a plastic bag every time. Now, granted, my mom lives downstairs. We share freezer space. I have a little more space than maybe the average person.
Sure.
But that's one good way is when stuff is in season, can you buy it ahead of time in bulk or fresh and not have to buy the plastic? And how can you pick your packaging better? We have so many farmers markets. That's such a good way to eliminate plastic. It's not going to work for everything, as I just showed you. My husband loves cottage cheese. There is no cottage cheese in a glass jar, much to my chagrin, but there is yogurt. There is, I mean, if you look, so the real answer is hard plastic can be recycled, soft plastic kind of, but almost no plastic gets actually recycled because also recycling plastic is really expensive. And so recycled plastic is really expensive. It's more expensive than virgin plastic. So nobody uses it.
Great. And then the last question here before we turn quickly to the raffle, Laura asks, where can you recycle bubble wrap?
Bubble wrap should be reused. Like almost never do you need to recycle it. It's soft plastic, so it falls into the soft plastic category that I was just talking about, but really you should just reuse it. You can bring it to almost any UPS store and they'll take it. Or put it on Buy Nothing and say, who's moving? They'll take it for sure, because buying it new is expensive. Or keep it in a bag, and the next time you mail something to someone, stick it in there, send it off to them. Like reuse it. Don't recycle it. I mean, unless you have just crazy amounts of it. But then if you have crazy amounts, take it to the UPS store. They'll take it.
Great. You know what? One more question here, because our friend Michael Woods has some excellent questions. He says, invariably wet, slightly dirty cans, jugs, bottles go into the bins that will never change. Doesn't this ruin all the paper and cardboard? Should we just throw the paper cardboard into the compost bin?
You are right that dirty recyclables soil paper and they ruin it. So if you live in the East Bay, they make you put your paper in a separate recycling container than your cans and jars for exactly that reason.
Interesting.
San Francisco is pioneer in recycling and composting. And so their view on this was, we want the most participation possible. And the thought is that if you ask people to do another step of sorting, they won't do it. So in Japan, they have like 12 bins. Okay. And you have to sort everything, but they have really clean streams and everything gets recycled. Here, put it all in one bin, we get more, but a lot of it also goes to waste. You're right. So if you see a bunch of soiled paper in your recycle bin and you want to dive down and get it, yes, you can put soiled paper in the compost, but the higher and better use for paper is to be recycled. So what you really want to do is put a little thing on the bulletin in your building and say, yo, who is putting their half-drank Coke in the recycle bin, and who didn't rinse out their pinto beans from their thing? It doesn't have to be a ton of water. It does not have to be perfectly clean. It just has to be clean enough to not contaminate the rest of the stuff in the bin.
Got it.
So don't stress about having perfectly clean stuff, but yes, make sure that it is clean enough that it's not ruining everything else.
Fantastic, Friday. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to turn really quickly over to the raffle portion in service of everyone's time. So the way that this will work is we have a few questions, and whoever writes in our chat first, we have your names here, you'll be the winner of that prize. And I just want to note that our first 4 participants who joined today's call will win a Casa power plug. And we do have your names. Yes, exactly. I want one, but I'll order one. So for the first question, this is also for a Casa Smart Power Strip. A used coffee cup goes into what color bin? And you can just write it in the chat. A used coffee cup goes into what color bin?
This is a trick question.
Oh, okay. We have a bunch of people, right? All right. It looks like the first one was answered by Steve. Okay, good job, Steve. We'll be reaching out to you.
Okay. What
Nice,
did Steve say?
Green.
Steve says green. Okay. There's a bunch of blues and a bunch of greens. Here's the deal. This is super confusing, you guys.
Oh,
It
no.
used to be that we put it in the green bin because it's paper. But here's the problem. It's lined with plastic. That's why it's a coffee cup and it doesn't spill all over you. If it was a paper cup, it would spill all over you. So now we put coffee cups that are empty and clean-ish into the blue bin. I will say that is in San Francisco. There are other places, like I think in Marin, they want you to put that in the landfill.
Got it.
But that plastic lining is not good for the compost. And so we are now moving away from that, because they used to be lined with wax, but we don't do that anymore. Now we use plastic. And so we don't put them in there. But that's a good question and a really tough one. But do you know the real answer? The real answer is bring your own cup. This is my favorite one, but you know what? You can just bring a regular cup to Starbucks. Just bring your cup. If you're going around the block, hi, can you make it in here? They will say yes.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. One, there is a California law that passed recently that says, yes, you can bring your things in even after COVID. And 2, there is a paper cup shortage in the world. You can read about it in the Wall Street Journal. They wrote about it recently. Starbucks and everybody, they're having a hard time with there's not enough paper cups, which is fine. So bring your own cup and they'll be delighted.
Perfect. And we have our Green Tree administrator in the chat who will be announcing the winners of each prize. Thank you, Friday. Perfect. Okay, so for this next question, this is for a $75 gift card to Feel Good, which Friday was talking about earlier. Okay, so here's the question. Is it better to wash your dishes by hand or use the dishwasher? What's better on the environment?
Yeah.
Look at all the answers.
Guys, I'm so impressed with all of you and your answers.
Can I just say that I was actually surprised, because I was thinking that washing by hand would be more efficient.
Yeah. So everybody thinks that washing by hand is better, but here's the truth. Unless your dishwasher is from 1960, which, let's be real, sometimes in San Francisco, your dishwasher is from 1960. Okay. Totally. I had one of those until not that long ago.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
If you have a dishwasher that's within the last 10 years, I would say, use your dishwasher, because you can look it up, how many gallons of water your dishwasher uses. Mine uses 3.5 gallons for a whole load of dishes.
Yeah,
that's great. Blew my mind.
Yeah.
Right? So if your faucet runs at 1.5 gallons per minute, which is your low flow faucet, that means you got 2 minutes, maybe 3 of water time to wash all your dishes. Now, my mom can do it. She's like a real seasoned Californian. She like puts it in a bowl and she reuses, and she's really good. And she likes it.
Nice.
So if you're that person who's super diligent, awesome, go ahead. But 9 times out of 10, using your dishwasher is going to be more efficient if it's full.
Great.
If it's full.
Great. Thank you. And then for our last question here, this one is for a 1-hour consultation with Friday, valued at $175. All right, so here's the question, everyone, get ready. What's the name of the app that you save energy and make money? Friday was speaking about this earlier. The name of the app where you can save energy and money. Okay, I see answers coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Ohm.
That was so fast.
It's called Ohm Connect. And also it's very shareable. So if you get your friends to sign up for Ohm Connect, they'll pay you and they'll give your friend like a little juice to begin with.
Referral credit. Oh, wow.
Yeah, like a referral credit.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going. So like the more people you get on it, the more referral credit you get. But also tomorrow, you guys, tomorrow is Earth Day. And I just got the Ohm hour for tomorrow. It's double points. It's for 4 hours because it's Earth Day. But usually it's about 1 hour, like from 6 to 7 or 7 to 8. In the summertime, they really ramp up and do a bunch, because while we're here in Carl the Fog and we don't need our air conditioner or our heaters to be on.
Yeah.
Use our heaters and they use natural gas. That's another story. Air conditioning is big time in the summertime. And so when we all use less electricity, the people who really need the air conditioning can keep it on without having blackouts. It's really great. And so now is a good time to sign up, because then you'll be rolling in all the points.
Absolutely.
And like, I think in the last 6 months, I think I've made like $100. It's not a ton of money, but it's not nothing.
Yeah. Hey, everything counts. Totally.
Yeah.
Laura, I am so excited for you. Laura DiNardo won, so she's going to have a session directly with you.
Yay.
Congrats, Laura. All right, everyone. Well, that brings us to the end of this chat. I want to say thank you so much for joining us for this virtual resident event series. We're going to have more opportunities down the road, virtual and in person. So please stay tuned. Keep a look at your emails for more correspondence from Green Tree. We're really thankful to have you all as residents, and we're thankful to Friday for her time and her tips and just for bringing her amazing personality, which she always does. Thank you all so much. You can find, I'm sure you have more questions. I have like a million more things I wanted to tell you. So you can find me on my website is sustainabilityconcierge.com. I also have a Patreon where I write about tips all the time. And my email is widely available on the internet. So if you left here with burning questions that didn't get answered, send me an email. I'm happy to answer them. I love your engagement. I love your enthusiasm. Be in touch. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening and stay tuned.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.